priorities and things to do. See, we have things that we believe are important. But what can happen is we fill our backpack full of things that we forget to prioritize what matters most. We forget to pack the things that we will need the most. And like any good parent, you want to help your child to unpack the things that they don't need or will weigh them down so that they will be able to have what they need for the very day that they're going into. See, God is like a father to us in this way. God is interested in as we meditate on a busy season ahead. Can we read this together, church? Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Can you just reflect on those words for a moment? See, Jesus is the Son of God. He is God in person. So when Jesus is saying these words, he's saying, this is who our God is. When we look at these words about a yoke, many of us didn't grow up in an agricultural environment. We may not know what a yoke is. We might think a yoke is the yellow thing in the middle of your egg. But he's talking about the harness that goes on top of a yak or an ox or a cattle. And that harness, that heavy piece of wood and metal, is meant to weigh that animal down so that they will obey and do whatever their master tells them to do. So Jesus is using a very familiar illustration that may be unfamiliar to us in our day. But when Jesus is saying, take my yoke upon you, he's saying, I have a way to lead you that is not oppressive and heavy. If you allow me to lead your life, I will lead you in a way that is gentle and humble. And I will lead you in such a way that even though your life may be full of busyness and chaos, I will lead you to find rest for your soul. What an encouragement to us as we enter into a new season. This fall, we are entering into a new sermon series, a new journey together. We're going to be going through a series called Paying Attention. Spiritual practices that ground us. And so for the next several weeks, we will be looking at spiritual practices that are intended to help us pay attention and prioritize what matters most in this life. Do you ever find that life is so chaotic that you are spinning in circles, trying to fit everything in your life, that you can often forget to pay attention to what matters the most? And so God has given us these tools, these practices like prayer and scripture reading and worship, the Lord's Supper, confession, singing, spiritual friendship, stewardship, and community. These things are meant to ground us and to help us to focus in a chaotic world that we're in. So we're going to be looking every week at one of these practices. And maybe you are familiar with some of these. You have a prayer life. Maybe you regularly read the Bible. But you know what? I know that many people struggle with spiritual disciplines. And you can come here and be honest today and say, you know what? I'll be happy just to make it to church. That's the extent of my discipline. But I want you to look at your life, and if there is a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety and chaos in your heart, I want to encourage you that if you pursue these practices, if you add them to the backpack of your daily routine, that you will find rest. and you will find peace and you will find focus. See, some of us, this is new territory. So I want to encourage you as we move forward. And so this message today is really an introduction to the series that we're going into. And I want to give you 3 reasons why that these practices are necessary for your life. I want to give you 3 reasons why, 3 words. First is relationship. Everyone say relationship. Everyone say potential. And everyone say legacy. 3 powerful words that I just want you to reflect on, that we're going to unpack over the next few minutes together. Spiritual practices allow you to cultivate relationship with the living God. They allow you to unlock potential in your life. And finally, they allow you to live into your legacy. So the first thing, let's look at relationship. Excuse me as I get my microphone figured out here. There we go. Relationship. One of the deepest needs of our soul is to be in relationship. We look for relationship in one another. We look for relationship in dating and in our marriage. We look for it in friendship. But really that longing for intimacy in relationship is a longing for God Himself. And when you practice spiritual disciplines, it allows you to connect with the God who loves you. Look at Colossians 3, 1-3. If then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. For you have died and your life is hidden with Christ in God. Is this saying that we should only think about the Bible and only think about God and basically just turn aside from all of our earthly responsibilities? This is not what Paul is saying. He's not saying that you become so heavenly minded that you are no earthly good. He's saying you need to start with the right priority. See, many of us, our priority is survival mode. We are just trying to exist through every single day and get by. And what Paul is saying here is start by fixing your attention on God first. And then what Jesus would say is that all these things will be added to you. See, spiritual disciplines, for many of us, a red flag can go up and you start to think about legalism. You start to think, oh, this is a heavy burden. This is just another form of slavery. Rather than seeing it as the pathway to a relationship with God. So spiritual disciplines at its core is not focused on ritual and religion, but on relationship. And I read this quote from John Stackhouse that I just fell in love with. Listen to this. It says, Christianity is not a code to follow, nor a technique to master. It's not a skill to acquire or a force to control. Christianity is a personal acquaintance with, personal allegiance to, and personal cooperation with the living God. The God who lives, the God who wants to live with us, Emmanuel. Isn't that beautiful? How often do we make our faith about duty? We make it about work. We make it about being efficient for God. We get so excited about working for God that we miss the gift, which is to be with God. That God has made us into a relationship with Him through His Son. And so we are called to live in this new reality. We're called to set our minds on Christ, who is our life. And I love how Paul says in these verses that we have this hidden life with God. Our lives are hidden with Christ, which means that even though you are in a chaotic world of busyness and looking for work and opportunities and housing, all the things that we need to live, He says you can find this hidden place in your life where you are hidden with Christ. You can go away to be with Him and find that rest that you need for your soul. But like any relationship that we are in our life, we have to be willing to invest in that relationship. We have to be willing to give someone our full attention. Have you ever been talking to someone and you can tell they're not really listening to you? How easy is it for us to be in the same room with someone but be completely disconnected from them? See, we can be coming to the house of God every Sunday. We can even open our Bible and utter words of prayer, and yet our heart can be distanced from Him. We all know what that's like. But the gift that we have is that we would slow down from trying to fulfill the duties of being a Christian and stop and say, Lord, I want to meet with you. Jesus, when He was in His earthly ministry, we all know Martha and Mary, the famous story of the busy one. Martha, she was busying herself trying to feed people and do the works of hospitality, these great things that we should be doing. But what did Jesus say? He said, you need to pay attention to what Mary is doing. See, Mary is sitting at my feet, learning from me and listening to me and receiving from me. I think many of us, we are so preoccupied. We're busy serving God, but we're missing being at His feet. I want to invite you right now to come to the feet of Jesus, to receive from the living God today, not to simply occupy a seat and hear a sermon and say, I went to church today. I want to invite you to know the presence of God today. He is here with us. And He tells us that we need to abide in Him. Jesus talks about abiding in Him. What does that word abide mean? It's not a word that if you have your most comfortable chair at home, or if you go to your parents' house or someone that you know well, and there's that special chair that you like to sit in, and it's the chair where you feel comfortable and warm and cozy, and you just feel welcomed and loved there. The word abide has to do with that. Jesus is saying, make your home in me. Find your comfort and security in your life in me. Abide in me. And Jesus says, I will abide in you. When you come to me with your frantic, busy, stress-filled emotions, if you come and you sit with me, I will make myself known to you, and I will abide in you. Spiritual practices are the way that we initiate that relationship with God. See, God does not force it upon us. He does not impose into our day. God invites us to come to Him. I remember talking to someone recently, and they felt guilty that I said, I just don't feel I'm disciplined enough. Whenever I read my Bible, I get distracted, and whenever I pray, I lose track of my thoughts, and I just had to encourage this person and say, you know what? When you come back to God, when you come out of that distracted state, do you know where God is? He's waiting for you. He's there, and He's thrilled that you want to come to Him. Whether it's 1 minute or an hour, He loves you, and He wants you to abide in Him. As you know, one of the greatest distractions in our world right now are these things. Does anyone have a smartphone here? If you don't, that's okay. We all know how easy is it for us to allow these devices to absolutely consume our life. And I am not standing here before you today saying that I have this all figured out. I really love using my phone to use tools and communicate with others. There are so many positive ways that we can use this device, but how many of us get pulled into this vortex, this black hole, where you look back and say, where did those 2 hours go? Have you ever had that happen? See, these tech giants, they have studied human psychology and addiction. And if you research this, social media and media in general, they have designed these things to capture your attention and make you addicted to them so that you will eventually purchase the things that they are advertising on their platforms. Studies have shown that the common person reaches for their phones at least 2,000 times per day. If you heard someone smoked 2,000 cigarettes a day, you would be concerned for them. But this is what it's like for us in our day. We are distracted. And we are allowing these things to consume our attention. And ultimately, what they are doing is stealing our intimacy with the Lord. And we wonder why we are so filled with anxiety and we are so easily offended and we are so sensitive emotionally. And it's because we are comparing with one another. And we are reading into people's posts and wondering what they meant by that. And it leads us down this dark path. And Jesus is saying to us, come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest. The encouragement I have for us, including myself in this fall season, will we pursue moments where we leave our phone in the other room, where we take a walk and be in the presence of God. And we will be amazed as we see the transformation of being with Him in relationship. The second word that we need to look at is the word potential. I love this word. The word potential. See, if you take seriously spiritual practices, the Bible tells us that it unlocks our God-given potential. 1 Timothy 4:7, discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness. I wonder if you come here today and there are habits in your life that you would love to quit. There are things that you do and you say that you just would love to no longer have in your life anymore. You know what? Every one of us comes here. We are a work in progress. God is not done with us yet. But the beauty of walking with Christ and practicing these spiritual disciplines is that we can see God remove areas of our life that are ungodly. That He can sharpen the rough edges of our character and our insecurities and our fears, and He can turn these things into hope and trust and faith and character. I wonder if you're here today and you're not the person that you used to be. You had things in your life that gripped you. You had addictions. You had sins that just clung to you so heavily, but you can stand or sit here today and you can say, those things no longer have a hold on me because of my walk with Jesus. He removed me out of that. See, there's a powerful thing that happens when we decide to practice spiritual disciplines. If you've ever seen an accomplished musician, they can sit in front of a new piece of music and they can play it without a hitch. Have you ever seen someone do that? They make it look so easy. If you think about a pianist, and it looks like there's no effort at all. And yet the freedom to play with such skill comes only after years of disciplined practice. See, they say that to have a world-class expertise in something, a person has to practice a minimum of 10,000 hours. Isn't this exciting? Isn't this encouraging to us that we can pursue godliness? I was having lunch with someone I consider a mentor, and he is very seasoned in the faith. And I was coming to him with I had a list of things that I was worried about. I was just starting to offload all of my worries and my cares, and I said, I was just getting a little bit worked up. And you know what? He sat there and he listened, and I finally stopped talking, and he looked at me and he smiled and he said, "You know what? I don't think you need to worry about that." I was a little bit shocked. I was a little bit surprised. I was ready for him to get involved emotionally in this engagement and give me the right tools and strategies. And you know what? All I needed to hear was him say, "You know what? It's going to be okay." See, this kind of personality, this kind of peace that you can have, it only comes after walking for a long time with the Lord. That you can get to a place in your life when it looks like there's all kinds of chaos around you, and you just want to throw in the towel. But you know what? You look back and you say, no, I've been through that before. I've seen this. You know what? You just maintain your course. Don't give up. See, this can only happen as we practice disciplined activity. Reaching for your potential is not about outward success. See, we live in a world that is all about self-help. How we can get richer, how we can get more successful, how we can climb to the top of the ladder. See, this is not what the Bible is talking about. You can be materially poor, but spiritually rich. See, there are many people who are very outwardly successful, but their character is very small. You could live a very outwardly humble life, but inwardly you have the character of Jesus shining through you. This is what we're called to in our life. Our church staff, in this past year, we've been going through a book called Emotionally Healthy Leadership. And this pastor who wrote this book, he in his 60s, and he looked back at his ministry and said, "You know what? I had all of these gifts and all of these skills, but emotionally I was like a child." Many of us can be so proficient, so successful, but yet inwardly we're not growing. And Jesus says to us, pursue godliness. God is more concerned at the inner life. And if we allow him and pay attention to what's going on the inside, he can heal us and grow us and make us into people who are working from the inside out. 1 Thessalonians 4:3 says these powerful words, "For this is the will of God, your sanctification." Sanctification means being conformed into the image of Christ. God's lifelong project for your life and my life is that we will become conformed into the image of Christ. And you know what? That is a difficult, uncomfortable journey, because along the way, the Holy Spirit will identify an area in our life that needs to be addressed. And will we allow the Spirit to investigate that, or will we not? Unlocking our potential. Finally, the last word, legacy. See, if you pursue spiritual practices, it will help you to leave a legacy. I want you to think about the Apostle Paul, a man who in his previous life, he had persecuted Christians. He had Christians murdered. He was a brutal, proud, zealous man on a mission to eradicate Christians. God transformed his life. He did a complete 180-degree turn, and his life was then now on a mission. make disciples, to convert the lost. Look at 2 Timothy 4:8. At the end of his life, this is what Paul says, I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure has come. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. See, something happened in his life that transformed him forever. He became a man on mission. He became a man who was focused and had clarity on why he was on this earth. And he was a man like us who had to stay on track through spiritual disciplines. Look at 1 Corinthians 9:26. He says this, so I do not run aimlessly. Does anyone feel like they're just running aimlessly in this life? Paul says, I don't run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. See, Paul was not just interested in spiritual practices for his own spiritual benefit. The beauty of, if we really take seriously a disciplined life, God can actually use us to make a difference in other people's life. Have you noticed that when you're in a bad space in your life emotionally, or you're caught up in sin, you really don't have the capacity to help other people? You're just in survival mode. You're just trying to take care of yourself so that you don't fall apart. But what happens when God gets a hold of your life and changes you is that you get to a place where you have the reserve and the overflow to bless other people and to leave a legacy. I don't know about you, but when I look back at my life, I want to say that I was faithful, that I didn't run aimlessly and try and capture all of the things in this world, but that I allowed myself to be focused on Christ so that others would benefit from my life. There was a moment in my early 20s. I was living in Taiwan at the time, and I was on a bus with other missionaries. It's a moment that I'll never forget. And I was standing on this bus, and there was 3 other young guys, and we were all in our early 20s, and we started talking about God and the Bible and our lives, and one of my friends, he said, I had this revelation. And he said, if you think about your life in 4 quarters, he said, as a man, we typically live to the average of 81 years old, hopefully much longer. But he said, we're around in our 20s, which means that if you separate your life into 4 quarters, one of those quarters is gone already. And for some reason, when he shared that, it was like a light bulb went on. And I realized that our life is short. Some of us, we're all in different age spectrums in this room. Some of us are just getting started. Our kids are in the other room. They're just getting started. Some of us, we're in the 4th quarter. Some of us are in the middle. But here's the thing. If we don't live a focused life, how easy is it for our life to get so busy that we get lost in activity and we miss out on leaving a legacy? Every one of us has 24 hours in a day, 365 days in a year. And Jesus is inviting us to consider, what will our legacy be? If we lived a life of purpose and focus, what could that do for the next generation? Today we're going to be sharing in communion. I want to allow you a few moments as we reflect on our lives. I want to invite you to take your backpack. If you have a backpack, I'm not talking your real backpack. I'm talking about your life. If you look at what is in your backpack, your priorities, and your pursuits. Would you be willing today to unpack that and lay it on the floor before Jesus and say, Lord, this is what I'm up to right now. Would you help me prioritize? Would you help me get the right things in there first so that I can live a life with purpose and focus and that I can leave a legacy for the next generation? As we take a few moments to reflect and to pray in your own seat right now, we'll take a couple moments and then I'll invite Sunny to come up and pray and we will receive communion together. Let's reflect.